Meanwhile, a federal judge in Michigan ruled this week that Detroit can, in fact, file for Chapter 9 bankruptcy. Judge Stephen Rhodes wondered aloud in court why such a move hadn't already been permitted, given the city's dire financial situation. Proponents of such a ruling called this Detroit's chance at a fresh start and expressed optimism for the city's future. However, not all are happy about this decision. As a result of this bankruptcy ruling, public employee pensions are now on the chopping block. Or, as Judge Rhodes puts it, pension benefits are a contractual right and are not entitled to any heightened protection in a municipal bankruptcy. However, critics warn that this unprecedented decision could shift financial burden onto the backs of a public that is already struggling. Most city retirees, after all, receive a pension of less than $20,000 a year. Now, those people are wondering if they need to sell their houses, look for a cheaper nursing home, or even in some serious cases, come out of retirement and back to work. To discuss this latest ruling, Peter Henning, a professor of law at Wayne State University, joins me now. Hi there. Can you give us a quick overview of the federal judge's ruling when it comes to Detroit's filing for bankruptcy?
Well, what the judge decided was that Detroit can, in fact, be part of the bankruptcy process. A government is different from a private corporation. A private corporation can opt for bankruptcy. What the judge said is that Detroit is eligible to go into the bankruptcy because it's insolvent. It cannot pay its bills. And that means now that the city manager, who has been appointed by the state's governor, the city manager can now offer a restructuring plan called a plan of adjustment. So in a sense, what the judge decided is step one has in fact happened now. Detroit filed for bankruptcy. It can move forward. The question now will be how much of a hit are the different creditors going to take?
So we all know at this point that the pensions are fair game. Is this the first time for a ruling of this type?
Well, the reason why the pensions are fair game in this case is that Michigan's state constitution has a provision that says that pension obligations cannot be reduced. That's a provision that's found, I believe, in 8 or 9 other states. So what the judge decided is that federal law trumps state law. If you are in a state where you didn't have this particular state constitutional protection, your pensions were always subject to being reduced in a bankruptcy. And that's always been the case, by the way, too, in corporate bankruptcies. Whenever a company goes into bankruptcy, the group that immediately takes a hit are the pensioners. So in a sense, what the judge said is that public or private employee, your pension's at risk here.
So what kind of ramifications could this have for those pension holders and the pension holders throughout the country?
Well, assuming the judge's ruling is upheld, and it is being appealed, but if it is upheld, then the message is to public employees anywhere that your pension is not sacrosanct. And if a city or local government is in dire straits, that your pension could be subject to being cut. It's not going to be wiped out. That I don't think we're going to see from the bankruptcy process, but the pensioners are going to take a hit here. They're going to lose some of their benefits if the ruling's upheld. The question now is how much, because in any bankruptcy, it's really a matter of how much pain are you going to absorb? How much of a cut are you going to have to take? Everyone gets hurt in a bankruptcy. It's just a matter of how much.
So who benefits from a ruling of this type?
Well, the other creditors would benefit from it. The various claimants on the city's assets, city has sold close to $10 billion worth of bonds, and those creditors want to have their slice of this shrinking pie. The pensioners want it. The city has any number of other obligations that it must pay out on. So what it is, if you will, is a bit of a feeding frenzy. Each group of creditors, each class of creditors, wants the most it can get, or at least wants to take as little hit as possible.
Now, Detroit's bankruptcy filing says that it has over 100,000 creditors. Can you give us an idea of who those creditors are and how they rank?
Well, all the pensioners certainly would be considered creditors. All the bondholders are considered creditors. And then anybody who might be owed money by the city. That includes, for example, me, because I work in the city of Detroit. I pay taxes. I have a claim to get a refund on my taxes. Therefore, I'm a creditor. It's a very small amount, and I don't ever expect to see it. But the number of creditors is everybody who the city does business with.
30 seconds left. Where does Detroit go from here?
Well, the question is, what is the restructuring plan going to look like? And can Detroit ever get back to the credit markets? That's the problem for the pensioners, is if the reorganization plan favors the creditors so that Detroit in 5 years can retap the credit market, pensioners are going to take a big hit.
Peter Henning, professor of law at Wayne State University, thank you so much for weighing in.
Thank you for having me.